Here's a nice game I just played as the white pieces. It's a miniature game. It only goes for 8 moves, and it started with e4. The reason I want to show it to you is because it demonstrates an important principle in chess, which is that in general you actually don't want to initiate trades of pieces. And this is a really quick game that demonstrates that point, why it's important not to initiate trades generally. So in response to e4, my opponent played e6, which is the French defense. It featured quite a few times, I think, or at least once or twice in the recent World Chess Championship. I followed up with d4, just securing 2 pawns in the center, and after d5, I played the French exchange, keeping it nice and simple and easy. Whatever that course is, I think it's called Keep It Simple with e4. I forget the author. But a good recommendation, because the French can be very, very complicated if you want to go into other sort of branches of the French variations. But when you exchange these pawns with e takes d5, e takes d5, it does tend to produce more manageable positions, I would say, from a human perspective. And that's probably why you see in the World Chess Championship, with the best players in the world, they test each other in these other variations. Now, to be fair, they can also test each other in this variation, but for, amateur players or people who maybe just aren't the best in the world, it's nice to have manageable positions. So, anyway, I got a little bit sidetracked there, but essentially we did enter the exchange variation. I played knight f3, and after c6 comes bishop d3. Just getting prepared to castle and developing quickly. And developing quickly is the key here. That's the reason that you don't want to initiate trades, is because at least at this point in the game, you want to be prioritizing your piece development. So here we have bishop g4, pinning my knight. But I just carry on playing bishop f4. I don't bother to try and unpin the knight or immediately challenge the bishop through something like h3, because he's only got the bishop there. He really doesn't have anything else to increase the pressure on my f3 knight, so I can always play those moves in future. But I do know that in the French exchange, and I learned this through experience the hard way, losing a game in a over-the-board tournament, in the French exchange where I had the white pieces, where I failed to get my dark squared bishop out before black did. So here I'd learnt from that lesson, I wanted to bring my dark squared bishop out to f4 very quickly to beat black, because if black gets their bishop to d6, then I won't be able to get my bishop out to where it currently stands on f4. So I beat him to it, and here comes really what is the fatal mistake. He took my knight on f3. He didn't have to initiate that trade. But because he did initiate that trade, it means that he didn't spend his time developing. And that's bad. If he doesn't spend his time developing, then he's going to end up underdeveloped. And, that's going to be accentuated by the fact that in taking the knight, he actually prompts me to take back with the queen, thereby developing my own queen. So whilst he's not developing, I am developing even more. So whilst he's becoming underdeveloped, I'm going to be, in some respect, overdeveloped. And that's why you don't want to typically initiate trades. Now let's see how this plays out. It doesn't take very long, because instead of developing the king side, he goes wrong and develops on the queen side. So now he's going to be even more underdeveloped. Now, Cecil Purdy, he was a World Chess Correspondence Championship and an Australian. So in the history of Australian chess, a very important name. In fact, in the history of chess in general, even on global terms, a very important name. He used to write educational chess articles in newspapers. And one of the things he used to write about was this idea of tempo in chess. And he said that if you're ever 3 tempi behind, then the game really should be lost. Or if you can win, if you have 3 tempi advantage, then the game should be won. Now, in this game, let's have a look at the tempi advantages that we have. To start with, everything's equal. Here it's still equal. Still equal. Now I did initiate a trade, but he had to, which was a pawn move, but he had to also take back with his pawn, because taking with the queen I would have gained a tempo back anyway. So still it's all equal. Now I develop a knight. He does not develop anything. So in a certain respect, that was an unnecessary non-developing move, right? This move here, c6, gives me as white one additional tempo. And with that additional tempo, I bring out a second piece. Now I have 2 developed pieces to black's 0 developed pieces, and I am 1 tempo ahead. And now he's got a piece out. So, it's basically I got 2 pieces out, he's got 1, but I'm 1 tempo ahead. Now I bring out another piece, and he initiates a trade. So again, he loses a tempo, right? And I get to take back with the queen. So it's kind of like almost like a half tempo here, but he's down now 2 tempi. Now he develops this knight, which is not good. He really needed to prioritize his king development. So in a way, okay, he does develop, but it's kind of only, again, a half point, because he didn't develop in the right way. He didn't really gain a full tempo. He still kind of lost half a tempo. So he's gone from being 2.5 tempo down to being the full 3 tempi down. And that's what Cecil Purdy would have said constitutes a losing position. So right now you could say he's losing if white plays well. And as white, I here castled, completing my development and bringing my rook potentially into the game. And now we're going to see the development, my very well developed pieces, specifically, let's say 3 tempi ahead of black's underdeveloped pieces, a lot as a result of him initiating a trade, as well as him sort of bumbling around in a non-developing style during the opening, to the point of accruing 3 tempi deficiency against me. Now we're going to see how that plays out. Even if he tries the best possible moves, like knight f6, I can play rook e1 check. He has to cover the check. And now I can actually pile up pressure on that bishop with the move bishop d6. And his bishop is unable to take me because he's pinned. And the reason he's pinned is because I have a rook there, and because his king is in the center. And my rook is there because I'm well developed, and his king is in the center because he's not well developed. And so that is the reason I'm able to put a lot of pressure right now on his bishop. If he were to castle now, he would lose not only the bishop, but the queen. Okay, he can't castle, which means his king is now trapped in the center, which means it remains a target and I can continue to attack it. Well, he has to defend it, so he brings the knight back to defend that bishop. And here, I really had an important move, because just because you're 3 tempi up and you've got an advantageous position certainly doesn't mean you're going to win. You actually have to find the correct moves, and that's not always easy. Now, you shouldn't lose. You should be able to, at the very least, hold a draw from this kind of thing. But to actually win, to walk through the opened door of an opportunity for a win that being 3 tempi ahead gives you, you still need to find the right moves. And in this scenario, the right move as I played was actually knight d2. It wasn't the tempting move. The tempting move was queen e3. Queen e3, putting the queen on the e-file to increase the pressure against the bishop. The problem with queen e3 is that black could play king f8, and at that point, after bishop takes bishop check, knight takes bishop, queen takes knight, queen takes queen, rook takes queen, king takes rook on e7. If everything's traded, you actually end up losing in exchange. So basically the queen itself on the e-file doesn't provide enough attacking power, because we would have the queen, rook, and bishop, which is 3 pieces, attacking his bishop that is defended by the queen, knight, and king, which is also 3 pieces. So we wouldn't actually be able to win that piece. So I just realized, okay, I need to bring more attacking power in. And the quickest way to do that is going to be by moving my knight out of the way to d2 and having the ability to sacrifice a rook. And then we're going to see that that's what happens now. He plays the move king f1. I mean, what else can he do? Sorry, king f8. What else can he really do? There's nothing else he can do to alter the fact that his bishop is pinned. And at this point, I really have to find the winning move, because if it's not bishop takes bishop check, which it's not, it can only be rook takes bishop, which is what I played. The reason this is the best move is because he can't take with the king. It's illegal. He can't take with the queen because I would take back, winning a lot of material. So he can only take with the knight, which is what he does. And my bishop still sits there, acting as a pinning his knight against the king. And that's extremely important, because now I can bring the other rook in without any loss of time, thereby maintaining my 3 tempi advantage, bringing that extra pressure to the piece that sits on e7. And now it's undefendable. So, in this position here, there was a piece on e7, and it was under heavy fire. We were 3 tempi ahead, but we didn't have enough material in the attack to actually finalize the attack. So what we needed to do was bring in extra material. The way to do that was by moving the knight, and then black couldn't do anything. Black had to wait, which also sets up the threat of bishop takes bishop, by the way. So it's a good move. It is the best move for black. But now as white, we need to strike, and we need to strike immediately. If we play bishop takes bishop check, then knight takes bishop, and what we actually have to do there is then try to double the rooks, which takes time. It's a slow thing to do, and essentially it subtracts 1 tempi away from our attack, and instead of being 3 tempi up, would only be 2 tempi up, which is not going to be enough to win the game. Still might be enough to draw the game, don't get me wrong, and eventually it might still be enough to win. It's still an advantageous position to be 2 tempi up, but it's not necessarily enough to win, on the spot with a checkmating attack. Okay, so that's why you can't play bishop takes bishop, or you can, but that's why it's better to play knight takes bishop, and rook takes bishop after the knight recaptures, with the bishop still on the board, pinning the knight. It's like you're holding the pinned piece there, making it wait, making it not be able to move. If it can't move, that in effect is a loss of tempi. It's a loss of tempo, and it's not exactly a loss of tempo, but what it does is it allows us the ability, in this case, to play rook e1, and kind of having used the pin as a spare second to bring that extra bit of firepower into the attack that was actually needed to turn this attack into a mating attack and convert the 3 tempi advantage into a checkmating attack. Now, there is no way to defend the knight except for giving up the queen. I mean, literally, there is nothing else to even try here. The next move is going to be bishop takes knight, almost no matter what. He moves the queen out the way, and now I play rook takes knight. That's the final move of the game, and a very accurately played game, I'm very happy to say. At this point, I'm threatening the move queen takes on f7 checkmate, and it's an extremely difficult move to defend against. Perhaps, one of the only ways to do it is, I think the only way to actually forestall that checkmate, and there's a bunch of varieties, but you can look at them. The only real way to do it is by sacrificing the queen, either by playing queen e8 immediately and allowing rook takes queen, with check, by the way, or by playing knight to f6, an interference move, so that the queen and rook no longer combine on the f7 square and therefore can't provide checkmate. But in that case, at the very least, there would be rook to c7 check, a discovered check against the queen, and the queen again would be lost. So there's no way to defend this checkmate except for giving up the queen. And so that was it. A really nice game. To go through it again, it was just a really brief one, and a story where white's development was much, much more rapid and ultimately led to a fatal attack. In a French exchange, got the dark squared bishop out early, castled, rook in the center, and then pile up pressure on that pinned piece and that immobilized king, ultimately leading with a rook sacrifice to maintain a pin to give me the time to bring the extra piece in to attack the pinned piece, and all over.